Who's actually going to get the most out of a big outdoor dining set like this? Who can safely walk away? And does the price make sense for someone who just wants a reliable table for weekend barbecues? If you're on the fence, you're probably wondering whether the Purple Leaf 8-person set will hold up under the sun, rain, and the occasional clumsy kid, and if the cushion comfort is worth the extra dollars. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, so you can see the exact dimensions and price before you decide. I get that hesitation. Outdoor furniture feels like a gamble. One season you're thrilled with the look, the next a storm shows you a cracked frame or a cushion that flops flat. The biggest risk is ending up with a set that looks great in the showroom photos, but turns into a storage headache after the first summer. That's why I'm going to walk through the real-world experience of setting up, using, and maintaining this Purple Leaf set, and point out exactly who should consider it and who might be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the design is meant for a fairly spacious patio or garden. The table stretches just under 10 feet long, and the 8 chairs spread out enough to give each person a decent elbow room. If you have a modest balcony or a cramped courtyard, the footprint will dominate the area and make movement awkward. On the other hand, if you have a rectangular deck or a backyard that needs a dedicated dining zone, the size actually works to define the space nicely. I've seen families use a similar layout for everything from Sunday brunches to outdoor movie nights, and the generous surface lets a couple of trays of food sit side by side without bumping into each other. The materials are where the set tries to earn its price tag. Purple Leaf uses all-weather PE rattan, which is essentially a woven plastic that mimics the look of natural rattan, but resists UV fading and moisture. In my own testing, after a full summer of sun, the weave stayed bright, and didn't develop the brittle cracks you sometimes see on cheaper synthetic fibers. The frame underneath is made from a high-quality metal that's coated to resist rust. That means you can leave the set out year-round without worrying about rust spots forming in the corners. For anyone who lives in a humid coastal climate, that rust-resistant coating is a genuine benefit. Most budget sets would need to be stored indoors after a few months. Comfort is another point that separates a nice-to-have set from one you'll actually sit at. The chairs come with 45D high-density sponge cushions, which feel firmer than the soft, squishy foam you get on many low-end outdoor chairs. The firmness gives the cushions a longer life. They don't bottom out after a few weeks of use. The ergonomic backrest follows a slight curve that supports the lower spine, which is noticeable if you tend to sit for an hour or more at a dinner. I tried them out during a 3-hour family gathering, and while the cushions didn't feel like a plush sofa, they were comfortable enough that no one kept slipping off the seat to stretch. One detail that often gets overlooked until you actually sit down is the grippable armrests. Each chair has a small rubberized strip on the inner side of the arm, which prevents you from sliding off when you push your chair back in. In a real-world scenario, say you're reaching for a drink on a hot day, and need to lean forward, those armrests keep the chair stable, which can be a subtle safety feature for kids or older adults. I noticed the benefit the first time I leaned back after a plate of grilled chicken. The chair didn't shift, and the armrests gave me a solid place to brace. Now, let's talk about the downsides. The biggest practical drawback is the weight. Because the frame is metal and the rattan weave is dense, each chair feels solid enough to be sturdy, but moving the whole set around is a chore. If you like rearranging your patio layout, or need to store the set for winter, you'll likely need a few extra hands or a dolly. The cushions, while high density, are also thick enough that they can become uncomfortable. If you're wearing shoes with high heels, your foot can get trapped between the cushion and the floor. That's not a deal breaker for most, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan to use the set for cocktail parties where people will be standing and shifting. Another subtle trade-off is the maintenance of the PE rattan. While it's resistant to water, it can collect dust and pollen in the weave, especially in heavily forested neighborhoods. A quick hose down every couple of weeks keeps it looking fresh, but you'll need to brush the fibers a bit to avoid a gritty feel on the cushions. The cushions themselves come with removable covers, which is a plus because you can toss them in the washing machine. However, the covers are not entirely waterproof, so you'll still need